You're very welcome along to the Matchbook Football Podcast, looking ahead to this weekend's Easter football lineup across 4 days of football. Well, we're checking out. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined as ever by Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke. If you are managing to catch us live on Wednesday or pre-Champions League or Europa League action, do check out all the guys' selections on insights.matchbook.com. Mark, going for both teams to score fourfold in the Champions League, and we're 2 out of 2 so far. We're expecting some goals and maybe fireworks, hopefully not from an Arsenal point of view for Adrian this tonight. So, but while we're checking out the guys' matchbook insights or even listen to the guys' thoughts ahead of kickoff, always enhances that enjoyment of the game, I always find. I mentioned insights.matchbook.com. Do hit that like button wherever you're following, watching, or listening, and do check out the Matchbook Betting Exchange. You'll get the best prices in terms of over-round. You're getting around 100% over-round for all our exchange markets, but you can, of course, get the benefits of the sports books with our bet builders as well. We will touch on our £10 podcast bet builder money back special shortly in our opening game. But basically, last thing, of course, to check out our new offer, Pod50, POD50. Best offer's been going for a few weeks now, but while we're checking out, all the details are available on YouTube there now. Basically, enter the bonus code Pod50, POD50. Let's get straight into it. We're going to go 2 Premier League games, and then guys, we pick a game each in our marquee section. Any other bets, long shots, and best bets. We'll start all the way on Easter Monday night football and look at the prices we currently have on matchbook.com. You can back Spurs currently at a price of 262. Forest 274. The draw 3.8. Both teams to score, yes, in and around the 1.5 mark. A draw no bet is the Asian handicap market on Matchbook, and 2.5 is the total. Mark, tough game to preview in general, or even at the best of times. But obviously, we're recording this before Spurs' Europa League game against Frankfurt, second leg. Where are these two teams at firstly, and then how do you try and come up with a bet in the midst of all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a trickier task than perhaps a week or two ago, because Forest lost for the first time against a bottom half team last weekend, and they weren't at their usual best. They fell way below their standards. They weren't as lacked the usual sort of tenacity and confidence, and even a bit of belief, really. And I think it might have stemmed from the City Ground supporters as well, who seemed to sort of be crippled a little bit by nerves, perhaps by their situation, and that seemed to translate onto the pitch, and they just weren't at it. And Nuno said himself he was very disappointed by the performance. It's now back-to-back defeats, which has drawn them right back into the pack for the top 5 race. And ordinarily, this would be a spot where you would consider them, playing against the bottom half team, albeit away from home. That's where they've been at the most effective, that and at the City Ground as well. But they're on the road here, and they've wobbled a little bit away from home recently as well. 4 defeats in 5, 15 goals against in those 5 fixtures, conceding at least twice on each occasion. And they have conceded 2 goals or more 9 times on their travels in the Premier League this season. So whilst you could make a case for them in sort of some way or form, that is a concern for me. Those back-to-back defeats and the fact that they haven't been at it away from home. 5 defeats and 10 now across all venues in the Premier League. They do seem to be feeling the heat a little bit. I know injuries haven't helped in certain aspects of that too. But in terms of the opposition, Spurs, I mean, they're obviously impossible to trust. Whenever we're sort of talking about them this season, aren't they? They might... We just don't know how they might react to what the outcome of Thursday night's match with Eintracht Frankfurt will be. It's a season-defining match for Spurs, but they do get at least an extra day's recovery in time for this match, and injuries themselves have cleared recently. So there's not really a huge amount of excuse for their recent Premier League form, bar looking towards the Europa League, but they've just been a right old mess in the Premier League. I looked at their record since they smashed Man City 4-0 in late November. Only the bottom 3 have picked up fewer points from Tottenham in those following 20 games, 12 defeats and just 5 wins across the whole season. Only Ipswich have lost just 2 league games more than Tottenham, which is pretty damning stuff. And exclude the top 6, and Spurs are 6 wins, 3 draws and 2 defeats at home, which isn't actually that bad. But they're also averaging over 2 goals per game at home across the whole season too, against all opponents. So that's not a huge surprise to us. We know they're about sort of scoring goals, creating opportunities, but defensively they can be pretty hopeless at times. So I think there's enough question marks for me over both teams not to have to sort of back either team. I prefer to make both teams to score. A bit of a foundation play for a bet builder here. It's a 75% hit rate for Tottenham home fixtures. They've scored in 14 of those 16, just 2 home clean sheets. Forest have scored in 13 of 16 away. But as I said earlier, they do concede goals, especially more recently on their travels. So I'll combine both teams to score with an old favourite of mine, which is back Forest's opponents to have the most corners. So Tottenham most corners alongside both teams to score gives us a 2.4 shot on the bet builder. Despite their struggles, Spurs are collecting heaps of corners throughout the season, 7.7 at home. They've hit 6 or more in 75%. They've won the corner count in 70% of those home fixtures. And Forest have faced at least 5 in 80% of away days. They've lost the corner count in 80% of those away days. And they have lost the corner count in 17 of the last 22 Premier League matches as well. So I think it's a nice boost on the BTTS price, which I think is about 144, 150 on the nose. So both teams to score and Spurs to have the most corners, 2.4.
Okay, it does seem a big boost when you include Spurs most corners. Yeah, Adrian, this is a game that can go either way. I mean, that's stating the obvious, but you can make a play that maybe brings that into play, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mark just said it. You can't really trust either side at the moment. You can't trust Forest away, losing 4 of the last 5, conceding a lot of goals. And you can't trust Spurs full stop. And we don't know what the fallout's going to be. They could be hugely uplifted by a brilliant win in Frankfurt, or they could be completely demoralised by a season-ending loss over there in Germany. So we'll have to see what happens. I've got all the same numbers that Mark had. The both teams to score is absolutely a runner here. 75% of Spurs home games. It's the same for over 2.5 goals as well. So that's another way you compare it. Both teams to score over 2.5. I looked at that, but it was around 1.7. Forest away games, 69% of those go over 2.5. Their away games in general, Forest average 3.38 goals. So, I can see Tottenham making a running, creating plenty of chances, winning lots of corners, as Mark just said. But also I can see Forest maybe freed from the pressures of the City ground, opening up Spurs on the break, because Spurs do leave themselves open, don't they? And Forest are brilliant at that aspect of the game. So what I've done is a little bet builder. Both teams have scored, just like Mark, over 2.5 goals for the reasons outlined. And then I'm saying no draw. So Spurs can win or Forest can win. And it takes the odds to 2.8, which is a nice boost, I think, from 1.7, which is both teams to score, and over 2.5. Now, why am I avoiding the draw? Well, draws represent 25% of all results so far this season, but not for these two sides. Forest have only had 6 draws, 18.7% of their games. Spurs have only had 4 draws. That's 12.5% of all their games end in stalemate. Most teams in this league have drawn at least 7 games, often a lot more. So these teams either win or lose most of the time. And given the fact that we really don't know what's going to happen here, then we're just playing the numbers game, really playing the odds over the course of this season. So that's how I'm looking at it. It's a fun one. Both teams score over 2.5, and Tottenham or Forest to win 2.8.
Okay, very interesting stats. So 10 draws between the two sides. Everton have 14 draws. Number of teams on 12 draws. Brighton, Arsenal as well. We will lock in and combine the guys' 2 picks there. We're going to go for both teams to score and over 2.5 goals, a pick each from the guys. But we'll lean towards Spurs most corners for the £10 money back as a free bet if it loses special on matchbook.com. So put these 3 selections in the bet builder. Both teams to score over 2.5 goals, and Spurs most corners. You'll get almost 2-1 on Matchbook 2.9. We'll go to our second game here of the Premier League, Villa versus Newcastle. Take a look at the betting we currently have on matchbook.com. Villa very unlucky there last night, 236 at home to Newcastle, who are 3.15. Both these teams in the battle for the top 5. The draw is 3.7. Both teams to score in and around the 152 mark. The Asian handicap line sees Newcastle get a quarter goal head start at 1.9, and 2.5 is the total here. 1.66 the over. So Adrian, what were your take on last night's game? Villa in patches were very, very good against an extremely good side that could potentially win the Champions League this season.
Yeah, no, it was really good, really impressive. I didn't see it coming. I thought, because I'd picked both teams to score, and I think PSG double chance. I felt so confident in that, especially once PSG took the 2-goal lead. Then Villa get one back. I thought, I'm onto a winner here. They're not going to come back and win it. And that's what they did. And it was a brilliant purple patch after half time. I mean, Marcus Rashford was really good in the game. I was surprised that he started ahead of Ollie Watkins, but he did play excellently.
Adrian, what is going on there? Because I can't find an answer properly between Watkins and Emery and what's happened over the last few weeks. He just prefers Rashford by the looks of it in those big games.
Yeah, it could be something to do with what happened in January. Obviously, it felt like Villa were prepared to sell him, didn't it? For a certain price. It felt like Watkins maybe let them know that he would go if the price was met, and maybe the relationship hasn't recovered from that. I don't really know, because his track record is outstanding, and I didn't think his form was particularly poor. Rashford's been very sort of up and down. When he's been hot, he's been really good for Villa, but not every game has been like that. But what really surprised me with Emery, and I was quite critical of Emery, wasn't I, ahead of the first leg, because everyone loves Emery and they say what an amazing tactician he is, and he's done a fantastic job there. But I do think he can overthink things, and I do think he makes some strange decisions sometimes. And I thought it was really strange last night when he took Rashford off for Watkins. Rashford was having a blinder.
Yeah.
The last thing he wanted to do was come off. They couldn't handle him. And, you're chasing another goal. You need another goal. You keep him on and take somebody else off. So I felt that he got that wrong. And they certainly didn't finish the game threatening that much, did they, Villa? So, but yeah, look, they went out on their sword. It was a great effort. I was actually, if Arsenal do progress, I think they will have seen a little bit of weakness there from PSG, particularly in the spaces in behind. They certainly got rattled when put under real pressure. So, it showed that PSG are maybe not quite as strong as they've looked. So for this game, Villa Newcastle, obviously Newcastle are playing Palace. That hasn't happened yet. So we don't know what the score is. I'm guessing that they'll probably win and play decently. I think it's a great game. It's an absolutely brilliant game because it's that battle for the top 5. I believe Newcastle are slightly stronger than Aston Villa over the course of the season, but their away form isn't great. Newcastle, I remember them playing brilliantly at Emirates in the Cup and winning there, but one away win versus the top 12 so far this season for Newcastle United. They've conceded in all 8 games against the top 12 on the road, the Magpies, and they've let in more than one goal in 5 of those 8 games. So, travelling to the better teams in the division hasn't been particularly fruitful for Newcastle. They tend to score in those games. Both teams' scores landed in 6 of those 8 as well. And there's been a lot of goals. I think most of those games, well, not most, but over 60% of those games have gone over 2.5 goals for Newcastle away from home. Villa, we know, are good at home, score loads of goals, but they don't keep many clean sheets. Very few, actually. Both teams' scorers landed in 13 of 16 Premier League home games for Villa this season. That's the most of any team on their own patch in the Premier League, and 62% as well have gone over 2.5 goals. So I'm feeling goals. I'm feeling like both teams can definitely register, and that maybe if we're to get a winner, it could be a 2-1 either way, even a 3-1. Newcastle have scored at least twice in 6 of their last 9 away games. Villa have scored exactly 2 goals in 6 of their last 8 Premier League home games. So they're both capable of getting a couple here. It could be a 2-2, thinking about it. And all of their last 5 meetings, incidentally, have gone over 2.5 goals, with Newcastle absolutely getting the better of Emery in recent meetings. Been some quite heavy wins in their favour. So, yeah, I'm going to sit on the fence in terms of the outcome. I could make a case for either, but really not sure. But I do think there'll be some goals. I think it'll be entertaining. So I'm going to go for both teams to score, and over 2.5 goals, 1.83.
Okay, Mark, and you like the goals angle there as well, with both teams to score to start with?
Yeah, for much of the same reason as Adrian, really. I did find this game tricky enough. Captain Obvious alert. It's a massive match in the battle for the top 5, but I do think there are questions and sort of considerations we need to take into account here. Villa are obviously so good in midweek against PSG, despite falling short. Can they lift themselves mentally, physically, to go again just a few days later? And similarly, I think the Villa Park crowd as well, who played such a big part on Tuesday night, can they raise themselves for another sort of massive match in the sort of quest to be in the top 5? I'm sure they probably can, but that's something to bear in mind. And then Newcastle, a day less rest after playing on Wednesday night against Crystal Palace. We don't know how the result might affect their approach here either. Were they to win that game, they'd be 5 points clear of 6th, which could alter their approach here. They might come into it knowing that a point kind of damages Villa's hopes of a top 5 finish, kind of cements their position in that top 5 too. And also Eddie Howe's absence as well. So how do we factor that into the pricing and our thinking? Because I think playing a home game against Man United just a day or two after he's been hospitalised and that news has emerged probably wasn't affect them too much. If anything, the players would be really eager to go out there and put a shift in for him. But the majority of the preparation will have already been done. But now you've had a sort of midweek match and then a really quick turnaround to Wednesday, Saturday turnaround. I think that's tricky in the best of times, but when you're sort of missing your manager as well and missing a lot of your preparation time, it just adds another sort of something to consider really. And as Adrian says, Newcastle have been very impressive on the road on the surface of it, but actually the majority of their best work has been done against the very lesser lights of the league. So going to Villa Park at the best of times is not easy. 5 defeats at home and 48 home league and European matches since the start of last season, just 1 in 22 this season as well. So I'm happy to kind of take the result out of the equation again. I'll back both teams to score like Adrian for all the same reasons. Villa's defensive record, which he touched on at Villa Park, is pretty atrocious, actually. They've kept 6 home clean sheets in the last 37 Premier League matches, which is pretty astonishing for a side sort of battling and being in the top 4 in the last sort of 2 years or so. 6 clean sheets in 37 home games. So absolutely Newcastle can score here, but for all the reasons Adrian outlined, Villa can and should do as well. So yeah, considering the attacking talent on both teams, I do expect both teams to score. And then considering the magnitude of the match, I'm going to chuck cards into the equation. Over 3.5 cards alongside both teams to score gives us almost evens, 1.96. Jared Gillette is the referee. He's hit 4 or more cards in 6 of his last 7. And that sample includes matches involving both Aston Villa and Newcastle, each of which hit the mark. And whilst Newcastle games have been relatively low on cards, Villa's have been the absolute opposite. 88% of their home games have gone 4 or more, as have 78% of their overall Premier League games this season, 4 cards or more. So, just sort of buying into the magnitude of this match and the significance of it. I think 4 or more should be achievable.
Okay, yeah, whichever way you want to go, we might lock in the bigger price there over 3.5 cards, given the magnitude of the game, as Mark's touched on, and both teams to score 196. And we will go back to Mark for Bologna versus Inter. We gave the guys a choice each in the remaining games across Europe or the EFL. Bologna are 3.55. Underdogs to Inter and Serie A, who are 2.4. The draw is 9-4, 3.25 on Matchbook. Both teams to score, yes, 191 favoured, with Bologna getting a quarter goal head start on the Asian handicap line and 2.5 the total, but considerably towards the under at 1.7. So yeah, Mark, set up this game for us. Obviously Inter in Champions League action tonight, and that it might impact some of these prices.
Yeah, it might do. But this is a tough game for them going away to Bologna, as it is for Bologna hosting Inter. Bologna suffered a rare defeat last week away at Atalanta, just their 5th Serie A defeat of the season. It means they've dropped out of the top 4. Now, obviously, they've got probably their toughest test of the season at home against the defending champions and the league leaders. But I still think they can make a mark in this match, absolutely. Simone Inzaghi may look to rest and rotate a couple of players, considering Inter have that game against Bayern on Wednesday. He's done that fairly regularly throughout the campaign, sort of resting, rotating players domestically before the big European games. And whilst Bologna away is definitely a banana skin, I'd be surprised if he went with his best 11 or his same 11 from Wednesday. So I'm expecting a handful of changes from Inter. And even if they did go with their best 11, I still think there's opportunities for Bologna here. But I think the best bet is that both teams to score price you read out there, 191. Bologna blanked for the only the 6th time all season last week. 6 times in 32 they failed to score. At home they've scored in 15 of 16. They also drew 2-2 away at Inter already this season, and also held Napoli 1-1 in their last home game here as well. So a couple of ticks in the BTTS box there. But in terms of what Bologna can offer going forward, they're very, very good, actually. Only the top two, Inter and Napoli, have generated a better home expected goals output. Only the top two have had more shots at home, and only Inter have created more big chances at home than Bologna. So if you look at the XG battle, they've won it in 13 of 16 home games. They've won the shot count in 15 of those 16 games. They are very capable, and whilst Inter are rightly lauded in European terms for their defensive record in the Champions League this season, they are coming into this game with just 3 clean sheets in 14 Serie A games, which isn't that great in fairness. So they do boast the best defensive data in the division, but they have conceded in 6 of 9 trips to the top 12, and they're obviously coming in off this game after a massive midweek where I think they're vulnerable in terms of the fatigue, emotional as well as physical fatigue from playing that quarter-final tie of Bayern Munich. But they should still get on the score sheet themselves. They've only failed to score twice on their travels all season. And Bologna have seen BTTS in 6 of 8 at home when playing against top 11 teams. So I think there's a lot of statistical elements in our favour here, as well as the scheduling too. So Bologna should give this a right good go. The reverse game was terrific fun, 2-2, hoping for something similar. So both teams to score at 191.
Okay, we'll lock that in. Bologna versus Inter, both teams to score. Move on to Easter Monday. We have games Good Friday and Easter Monday in the Championship. We'll take a look at the betting we currently have on matchbook.com for Burnley versus Sheffield United. Big game, which we'll preview in just a second. Burnley 1.8, Sheffield United currently 4.2. The draw 375, both teams to score. Yes, considerable underdog there at 225. We'll get the reasons why in a second. Sheffield United plus half a goal at 208. The goal line 2.5, but unders considerably winning that at 153. Adrian, I mean, you can outline the fixtures from Friday heading into this big Easter Monday game, which will be on Sky, I think 5:30. Leeds and Burnley 88 points each. Sheffield United 5 points back on 83. But just looking at the goals conceded, I mean, I know it's been talked about at length, but Burnley have conceded 13 goals in the Championship. I'm actually going to tweet about this straight after. Next best is Leeds United at 29. And we have some teams like conceding 64, 82 goals Plymouth have conceded, and Burnley have conceded 13, the same division.
Yeah, look, just a very, very well coached side. I know Mark's a massive fan of Scott Parker, and he'll be reveling in his success this year. But no, seriously, they've been brilliant without the ball. I've never seen a team at this level know their position so well. The shape is good, and even if they get pulled out of position, they're really, really quick at getting back in to regroup and block out the opposition. They have not conceded more than 1 goal in a game all season, which is just nuts. And there's an even better stat here, which I think is a great stat, because a lot of goals are scored in the final half an hour of games, right? Things get stretched, defenses get tired. There are stacks of goals in the final half hour of matches. Well, Burnley, all season, in 42 matches, in the final half hour of games, have conceded 2, which is just
2 in 42 games.
It's astonishing. It is astonishing. And I was there the other night when they conceded the second one. So, crazy stats. Burnley, Sheffield United then. Burnley have got Watford away. Tricky game. Probably should win, but, they could drop a point. Or drop 2 points there. They'll still be ahead of Sheffield United coming into the game. Sheffield United have got Cardiff at home. I'm going to talk about that a bit later, but I would expect them to win against Cardiff at home, because they have to. They absolutely have to. So the gap will either be 5 or 2 or 3. So, the advantage will be with Burnley. Burnley don't have to win the game to protect their advantage over Sheffield United. And that's kind of where I'm at with this. I want unders all day long, but obviously it's way too short. In terms of unders, it's I've outlined why for Burnley, but Sheffield United are very, very good defensively as well. They've conceded no goals or 1 goal in 33 of 42 matches, which is in itself very, very impressive as well. I'm going to pair it with a draw. So I'm going to go with draw and under 2.5 goals, which it means I'm back in 0-0 or 1-1. I think that offers the best value here, because if you go with Burnley and unders, it's short. If you go with Burnley double chance, it's short and a bit risky. If you go with Burnley double chance and unders, it's way too short. So draw and under 2.5 pushes the price out to 3-1 at 4.0, which I think is really good value here. I'll tell you why. Burnley drew 0-0 at home to Leeds and Sunderland, the other big boys in their division. Burnley have actually had 6 goalless draws at home. They've also had 3 1-1 draws at home. Away from home, incidentally, they've also had 6 goalless draws. So overall, Burnley have had 12 0-0ers this season and 4 1-1s. So this bet for them would land in 38% of their games. Sheffield United have had less sort of low draws, just 4 3-1 allers and a 0-0. But they're not high scorers, even though they're flying high in the division. A bit like Burnley, don't get that many. They've scored a maximum of 1 goal in 23 of 42 matches, which is more than half. So it's unusual for them to get 2 or more goals, and it'll be even more unusual at Turf Moor, given what I've just said. And Burnley, by the way, can better that with 25 of 42 matches where they've scored a max of 1 goal. So for me, it's all about the binary numbers here. Which order is it going to be? I mean, it could be 1-0 either way. Of course it could. But I'm backing 1-1 or 0-0. Draw another 2.5 at 4.0. It should be. It's a huge game. Absolutely massive.
And a huge runner, this bet, potentially. Burnley versus Sheffield United. More on one of those teams' games on the Friday in a minute. Mark, Fulham, game state probably helped them here, but I watched most of the second half against Bournemouth. Thought they were quite decent, unlucky, maybe not to get a point. You think them, with the Asian handicap start, home to Chelsea is a bet this weekend?
Yeah, I really do. I actually think Fulham on the nose at 2-1 is worth a crack here as well. Actually, I just want to be against Chelsea. They were well beaten by Fulham in the reverse game at Stamford Bridge. If I remember rightly, they generated about 1.8 expected goals, outshot Chelsea, had more possession at Stamford Bridge as well. And I think Chelsea are vulnerable to another defeat against their neighbours on Sunday. Fulham gunning for their first ever league double over Chelsea, trying to keep their own European qualification dreams alive after that defeat, as you say. They're a very curious team, though. Their record since the FA Cup third round in early January in the Premier League reads: lost 1, lost 1, 1 lost, 1 lost, 1 lost, 1 lost. So they should be due a win here. So that's the reason. No, curious, but they've also. It's also their record, really, against the better teams in the division, which is quite remarkable, actually. They have beaten Liverpool, Newcastle and Nottingham Forest at Craven Cottage. They held Arsenal, of course. That's the top 4. That's 10 points. They're unbeaten against the top 4, scoring 9 goals. If you include away days against the top 6, home or away, 6 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats. That's a remarkable record. It's the best record in the division against the top 6. Fulham hold it with 6 wins and 2 defeats in 10 games. It's incredible. They've even scored twice or more in 7 in 7 of those matches as well. The next best record in terms of wins against top 6 teams is Man City and Bournemouth, who've managed 4 each. Fulham are on 6. But bizarrely, Fulham have managed just 7 wins against teams below them in the table. So that's 10th and below. But anyway, they're facing a Chelsea side who are starting to stink the place out a bit, aren't they? A really dire 2-2 draw against Ipswich last weekend, conceding to a Brighton low knee and a right back playing out of position. They're looking sort of increasingly unsure about themselves. Maresca doesn't appear to have any answers right now, and their away form has been atrocious. Their last 8 games in the Premier League, 0 wins, 3 draws, 5 defeats, 3 goals scored. If you exclude the bottom 6, Chelsea have won 5 times in 20, home or away, in the Premier League this season. Away from home, 1 win, 4 draws, 5 defeats, 6 goals scored. Yet they are pretty sure. Well, they're 6-4ish, 2.5 to win away at Fulham on Sunday. I'm just not buying that at all. I think Fulham will be very eager to get something out of this match. So happy to back them on the nose, about 2-1. But for this purposes of the podcast, we will put up Fulham plus a quarter of a goal on the Asian handicap, about 175, 180 if you can get that. And it just means we'll make money as long as Fulham avoid defeat. And as I say, they've got the best record against the top 6, and Chelsea have won 5 times against teams outside of the bottom 6 across the whole season, home or away. So, I think I want to be with the Whites.
Okay, confident selection from Mark there with Fulham on the Asian handicap. Adrian, you have 2 selections. Any other bets, starting with the Arsenal away to Ipswich?
Yeah. Ipswich play Arsenal. It's a sort of derby for me. Ipswich is my boyhood club, and Arsenal, the one that I've sort of played for and followed since I was sort of about 10 years old when I sort of cruelly dumped Ipswich. So, but this is sort of my derby.
There's a
So I'm looking
podcast
forward
on
to
that,
it.
Adrian. There's definitely a podcast on that for sure. But
The Adrian Clarke Classico.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the Clarkico. Yeah, I like it. Look, Arsenal are 1.43 to win, and I think they should win. Look, no matter what happens in Madrid, they should go to Ipswich and win, like most of the other big clubs have done this season. City went there and got 6. Remember, Newcastle and Forest both scored 4 in victories. Liverpool on the opening day only got 2, didn't they? It was 2-0, but they've conceded quite a lot of goals to the best teams at Portman Road this season. So yeah, Arsenal are too short at 1.43. But if you think that the game will have 3 or more goals, then it comes up to even money, 1.99. And that's the pick I like here. Ipswich have lost 7 home games this season that have gone over 2.5 goals. Their home games average over 3. They're often worth a goal. I'm not saying they'll definitely score in this game, but they're often worth one. They're an attacking side. They go for it to a degree, and they kind of have to, even though I think the game's up in terms of survival, but they kind of have to go for it to a degree. Scored in 10 of their 16 home games. Just the 1 home clean sheet. That was against the aforementioned Chelsea when they beat them surprisingly. But they haven't really looked like keeping clean sheets at home. And Arsenal, no matter who they put out, I think will be clinical. The anomaly, and maybe why you can get good value, a decent price on this, is that actually this bet's only landed in 3 of Arsenal's away games this season, which is crazy, really, for a title challenging side, a team that last year walloped a whole host of teams. Did win well at West Ham, at Palace, and at Brentford, but that's it. Really, they're kind of due a nice, comfortable hammering away from home, and I do think that the Ipswich away is an opportunity for Arsenal to do that. So yeah, I just thought there's a little bit of juice there. Back in Arsenal, and over 2.5 goals at 1.99.
okay, that is currently Arsenal over 2.5 goals, 199. As Adrian mentioned, the second selection is Sheffield United, which we've covered on Monday, but of course they play beforehand on Good Friday, I think. So take it away with your bets here.
They do, yeah. So yeah, it's a bit Blades heavy today, isn't it? But yeah, look, on Good Friday, after their just crazy defeat at Plymouth, 1-0 up, 9 minutes to go, and then they somehow conspire to lose the game 2-1. It's a disaster. And they've put themselves right on the back foot. Chris Wilder's lost his head a little bit lately. So I'm expecting a massive reaction. I've got to be honest. It's an absolute must win if they want to have any chance of pushing Leeds or Burnley for top 2. They have to beat Cardiff at home. And look, Cardiff are in a relegation fight. They're in the bottom 3. It's a game they should win. Obviously, there'll be plenty of motivation from the visitors. But look, over the course of this season, these 2 sides have been miles apart. In terms of quality, Cardiff did get spanked 7-0 at Leeds, and they lost 5-0 at Burnley as well earlier on in the season. So, what can Sheffield United do? Just the 1 away win for Cardiff this calendar year, 2 clean sheets in 15 for Cardiff. They've got the fourth worst defensive away record, Cardiff, but they have scored a lot of goals on the road. 22 of them, which is actually the same as Bristol City, who are in the playoffs. So Cardiff are often worth a goal of their own on the road, but can they really keep out a Sheffield United team that I think will be seriously pumped up for this? 13 of the last 14 Cardiff away games, by the way, have gone over 1.5 goals. And that's where I'm going with it. I want to back Sheff Utd and over 1.5 goals. So it's any win apart from 1-0 for the Blades. As I said, 13 of the last 14 away games for Cardiff have gone over that number. Sheff Utd have a terrific home record, especially against teams 10th or below. 1-11, drawn 1, lost 1. They've won 14 of their home games overall. And 8 of those wins have been over 1.5 goals. I just think that they have to turn it on here. They have to give the fans something back. And I think there'll be a bit of anger unleashed on Cardiff, and that they'll get the win that makes that game on Monday at Burnley nice and interesting. So, 1.85 is your price on, promotion chasing Sheffield United to beat Cardiff at home just that we don't want the 1-0.
Okay, lock it in as a bet there. Move on to our long shot time here. Ask the guys every week to pick a long shot of the week. If someone wants to tail them here, Mark, Leicester versus Liverpool. Very interesting angle here. You've had a bit of luck throughout the season. I don't hope you don't mind me sharing with, taking on a little under cards at times in certain spots. This is a fascinating double here that on the match with Bet Builder.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one on the surface, isn't it? But I think statistically, this is quite a strong long shot considering the price of 6.5. Surprisingly so, actually. Obviously, Liverpool require just 6 points to be champions. They should get half of that tally against Leicester on Sunday, who've lost 8 successive home games without scoring. They were better at Brighton last weekend, but deserved to lose that match, even though they didn't. They did give it a better go than they have in recent weeks. But look, they've been utterly awful for almost all of Ruud van Nistelrooy's reign. But what I have noticed is they are winning corners, and winning corners at a weirdly good rate, actually, if that's the right turn of phrase. So they won 6 corners at Brighton last week. They won the corner count. They also won 12 corners when getting annihilated by Newcastle in that 4-0 last Monday night or 2 weeks back. They won the corner count there as well. So that's 6 and 12 in the last 2 games. They won 6 when hosting Man United recently as well. And at the King Power, they've won at least 4 in 8 of the last 9 home games, only failing against Arsenal when they forced 3 corners. And if you remember back to that match, as you guys will know, the match was in the balance for the most part. Game state was very much in Arsenal's favour. They scored 2 late goals in that game, and Leicester still managed 3 corners on that occasion. So they've had 3 corners or more in 9 straight home games. So we're going to add that to the list. They actually won the corner count 5 of the last 8 home games as well, and half of the last 12 across all venues. So that's a very, very big price for this weekend. But we'll stick Leicester 3+ corners in here, and I'm going to combine it with Liverpool not to be carded. Liverpool have avoided a card in 5 of the last 7 Premier League games, including 3 straight away games. 5 of the last 8 away saw a maximum of 1 card given to Liverpool, and 14 of Leicester's last 16 opposition sides have collected fewer than 2 cards, with 8 of those teams getting no cards at all against Leicester as well. So combining that, Leicester over 2.5 corners and Liverpool under 0.5 cards gets us a 6.5 shot, which I think is well worth cheering on. And just I didn't mention, actually, Liverpool's corners conceded since mid-January. They've played 11 Premier League games, and 9 of their opponents have managed at least 3 corners against them, which includes Ipswich and Southampton getting 4 away at Anfield as well. So I think Leicester are more than capable, considering those numbers, of getting at least 3. And Liverpool, as we've seen recently, aren't collecting too many cards. And look, this is a game between a team who are pretty much relegated and a team who are pretty much champions. I can't imagine it's going to descend into a feisty fixture. So, just a couple of sort of unlikely angles which have a reasonable sort of statistical element about them to make a 6.5 shot.
It's tickled me, this one, Dan, because Liverpool being favoured by the referees. I just don't know where Mark's coming from with this. Being given an easy ride by the officials. That really shocks me that's been happening. There you go.
Mark's just added fuel to your fire, Adrian, and I love it. Those card statistics.
I'm still smiling. It's all right. It's all good.
We're going to see a lot of people backing that double, I reckon. It's just one of those card-aided double that stands out on Matchbook Bet Builder over the weekend. So looking forward, Leicester over 2.5 corners and Liverpool to continue that.
Actually, I'll let you just a little secret. Leicester have had a bit of a tough warm-up for that game. Because yesterday I was at the training ground, and because my son's in the pre-academy, he's only 7. His little under sevens team got to play with the Leicester team after training. Had a little 5-a-side.
No way.
So they've put them through their paces, and they did their best Liverpool impression. So let's see if it pays off. It was really nice, actually. It was a lovely touch.
That is, isn't it?
to do that. Yeah.
No stone unturned here on the Matchbook Betting Podcast, but it looks like Adrian's on board with Leicester over 2.5 corners and Liverpool no cards on the Matchbook Bet Builder. You've got one in the Championship for us, Adrian, on your long shot.
Yeah, I like this one as well, actually. Look, it's Blackburn against Millwall. I think one place separates the 2 sides, but the trajectory is very different. Blackburn have tumbled out of playoff contention, really, and Millwall have played themselves into it under Alex Neil. Been a brilliant run. They're one of the most informed teams in the Championship over a fair period of time. They've won 5 of their last 7, Millwall, and got 1-0 wins at Stoke Borough and at Sheffield United. So, you know, they go into this one in really, really good shape. They're defensively very, very miserly, Millwall. Don't score loads, but they can keep it tight at the back. And Blackburn haven't been in good form at all under Valerian Ismail. They did beat Luton last time out, but before that they were winless in 8 and they'd lost 6 of those. So I fancy Millwall for those reasons, and I want to pair it with both teams to score no. So I fancy Millwall to win to 0. They have had 5 1-0 away wins this season already. Millwall, they've kept 8 away clean sheets. They've got 15 overall this season, which can only be bettered by the top 4 in the Championship. So Millwall are really good at keeping clean sheets, and doing it on the road isn't a problem for them. Blackburn, not that free scoring, I'm afraid. 8 games they've had against the top 8 at home. Millwall are 9th, and they've blanked in 5 of those 8 against the top 8 at Ewood Park, and they've lost 4 of them to 0. So, you know, this wouldn't be an unusual scoreline in my book. 7 blanks overall at Ewood Park this season, 15 in total. Only Plymouth have failed to score more often than Blackburn. So, yeah, I can absolutely see Blackburn 0, Millwall 1, or Blackburn 0, Millwall 2 here, because that is what the form book tells us should happen. So you can get that at 5.5, which I thought was decent.
Okay, Millwall to win to 0 at 9-2 on Matchbook 5.5. Best bet time, Mark. You've got one here, and Wrexham are absolutely fine this season to continue that good run with a win in under 3.5 goals versus Bristol Rovers.
Yeah, big game for both teams, opposite ends of the table. Happy to be with the strong favourites here of Wrexham. Considered Wrexham to win and BTTS no at 2.2, but statistically it's a better play to be with Wrexham to win and under 3.5 goals at even money. Not a huge amount of difference between the price, but that angle's been profitable in 13 of Wrexham's 21 home games compared to 10 of 21 when Wrexham have won without conceding. Their home record so far this season, 15 wins from 21, 12 wins from 14 hosting sides in 10th and below, and 11 of those 12 wins came alongside under 3.5 goals. In terms of attacking areas, they are just dripping in quality for League One, enormous budget, and you know, they shouldn't have any problems scoring a couple of goals here. But Phil Parkinson's pragmatism means they don't ordinarily sort of blow teams away. They've only scored 4 goals or more once this season in League One, but it's their defensive record which really comes to the fore. 22 clean sheets, 12 and 21 at the racecourse. That's been the framework for their positive campaign, and they're facing a Bristol Rovers side who are just sleepwalking their way to League Two at the minute. Beaten at home when really well fancied by the market last week against Exeter, who are basically on the beach. It's now 6 defeats on the spin. They're down in the bottom 4 because of Burton's resurgence, and their away record is just appalling. There's no other words to describe it, really. 16 defeats and 21 on their travels. They've also scored just 4 away goals in the last 15 away league games. So that's basically 23 hours of football and 4 away goals. Their away record at the top 17, 0 wins, 1 draw, 14 defeats, and they've scored just twice in 12 trips to the top 14 as well. It's just absolutely awful. 12 of their 16 away defeats have seen under 3.5 goals land, compared to 11 when backing them to win or to lose to 0. So we've got the 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, and the 2-1 onside here at evens, which I think is a really nice boost on Wrexham just to win the game, which is around about 144. So yeah, happy to be with the hosts.
Okay, it's jumps from 144, as Mark says, to evens, including the under 3.5 goals with that Wrexham win. Best bet for you, Adrian, on the card?
You're going to go in the Championship. A huge game, actually. Early kickoff on Good Friday. Derby against Luton. I want to back Derby, double chance, and under 2.5 goals. It's around even money. I think last time I looked, it was 198. It's got low scoring game written all over it, but you would have to fancy Derby, who are in the better form of the two. They've lost just 1 of their last 7 games. Derby under John Eustace, they've climbed out of the bottom 3. It's not been perfect, but there's certainly a lot more improved than they were. And actually, over the course of this season, at home to their rivals, the teams 15th and below, they've got a great record, unbeaten at home against those teams in the bottom 8. 5 clean sheets in those 7 games. and just 2 goals conceded overall against teams in the bottom 8 at home. So, you know, they've been able to grind out either low-scoring draws or narrow victories at Pride Park, where games are very cagey. You know, they haven't got a free-scoring attack, but they are good at the back. 9 of the last 10 Derby home games have gone under 2.5 goals, which is, you know, when you think about, you know, the Premier League and the way the prices are set, it's very unusual, really. So, yeah, a lot of low-scoring games. What about Luton? Well, their last 5 games, all under 2.5 goals. Matt Bloomfield has kind of sorted the defence. He's worked really hard on it. They still keep missing too many chances. They're not a bit misfunctioning at the top end of the pitch. They've scored a maximum of 1 goal in 13 of their last 14 matches, Luton. So even though they had a bit of a revival themselves, they never scored 2, really. Never scored 2 or more. They've also got just 3 away wins all season. So, yeah, unders is the huge, you know, expectancy on it. It's going to be cagey. It's a survival 6-pointer. Can't see anything other than a tight, nervy game. But you'd have to favour Derby. So, yeah, Derby double chance, under 2.5, 1.98.
And that's versus Luton at 1.98. My thanks to Mark and Adrian. We'll be back this time next week or in and around that to preview the FA Cup semi-finals, along with a lot of Premier League action as well as we build up towards the end of the season. There'll, of course, be Champions League podcast post that as well. But do check out insights.matchful.com. Full recap of all the guys' picks. Enjoy the Easter weekend and enjoy the Easter weekend's football. We'll chat to you next week. Bye-bye.